Hey guys, Bug Out back here. So on today's Fact versus Film, we're going to be looking at something kind of controversial, but maybe not as new as some people may think. And this is going to be the theory of if the polar ice caps melted, would in fact our entire world be flooded over? So we're going to actually kind of take a look at a scientific approach at this and kind of to get some ideas here. So I'm sure many of you have heard of the film Waterworld. This is one that released, I believe, in like the 80s. The original screenplay was written back in the 60s. So this is a subject that's been talked about for quite some time. The fear of, would we be living in a water world if the polar ice caps melted? So here's how we're going to look at this kind of scientifically. What we're going to do is we're going to take this cup. This cup has been in the freezer overnight, so the cup is all nice and cold. And it's a glass cup, so it holds its temperature pretty well. We're going to take ice cubes to represent our icebergs. Because as you know, out of an iceberg, only the tip of it is actually stepping out of the water, while the rest of it is beneath. Remember, just the tip. Alright, so in theory, if the ice cubes representing the iceberg completely melt because the climate's gotten so hot, the water around it's warmed up, the ice caps are starting to melt, and in theory, we should see this cup overflow, right? Or at least the water level should raise. Now I tried a couple times to use a marker on the glass, and because of the condensation it was too wet, so I'm just going to use some electrical tape to go ahead and mark the level here. So again, in theory, what they say with the ice caps melting causing our world to flood, we should see the water level rise. So we're going to check this out, see if this is legit. So go ahead and place your bets. Do you think that this Fact versus Film is going to sink or swim? Alright guys, so I'm not saying that this is a 100% legit way to do this, but if you think about it in a scale form, and you think about it in kind of common sense, it's more than likely, if the ice caps were to melt, we're not going to be living in a water world. Now, because the Earth is a very complex being, do I feel that if the polar ice caps completely melted that we'd still be A-okay? I don't know. There would probably still be some kind of big issues. I'm sure it would affect the world in some way, but in the idea of it completely just flooding the Earth because the ice caps melted, it doesn't make sense. Solid mass is still going to take up pretty much the same amount of room as liquid. It's all about dispersing. So the fact of it melting or not melting, it's not going to overflood the Earth. And in fact, when something melts, you have to remember, majority of that turns into liquid, and a lot of it's going to go up into the air. So the only way that I could really see our Earth flooding from the polar ice caps melting is if they were melting at the exact same time that we had a torrential downpour everywhere. So guys, again, I know this is super controversial. I don't want to get into politics. I'm not a scientist, all this fun stuff. This is just, again, an example. But I still, regardless, I'd love to hear your comments, your ideas. If you have other fact versus film stuff you want me to try or put to the test, please comment, please like, please subscribe. And as always, be prepared.